The night often feels like a gentle boundary between what we know and what we only sense. As the world quiets and the rhythm of the day slows, our minds naturally begin to drift toward places we don't always explore while awake and busy. In this softened space, the sky above becomes more than just a dark canopy. It becomes a vast, silent ocean holding stories older than civilization itself. For thousands of years, humans have looked upward in moments of fear, wonder, or reflection, noticing strange glimmers or unfamiliar shapes that did not belong to the known world. Long before telescopes, satellites, or aircraft existed, people recorded unusual lights and objects moving against the stars, describing them the only way they could, with the language and beliefs of their time. It is often easy to dismiss these early accounts as superstition, but when read carefully, they reveal something surprisingly consistent: a quiet acknowledgement that the sky has always held mysteries. Ancient priests wrote about floating shields that glowed with unnatural brightness. Mariners crossing uncharted oceans saw lights that danced above the horizon, too steady and purposeful to be lightning. Even farmers working late into the evening described luminous shapes that drifted silently overhead. These stories, gathered from distant cultures and separated by centuries, suggest that strange aerial encounters are not just a modern phenomenon, but part of a long human relationship with the unknown. As we move closer to the present, that ancient sense of awe hasn't disappeared. It has simply taken new forms. With the rise of science and technology, we gained better tools for observing the world, yet the mystery remained. Reports from pilots, soldiers, sailors, and trained observers began to emerge with details that were too precise, too disciplined, to be dismissed easily. These individuals were familiar with aircraft, atmospheric illusions, and the many tricks light can play at night. Their testimonies added a new credibility to the idea that something beyond our understanding occasionally visits our skies. But the nighttime setting still mattered. The darkness softened edges, muted color, and encouraged both focus and imagination. Even the most experienced observers are affected by the quiet and isolation of night flight. Night also shapes the way memories form. Psychologists note that when people are in calm, low-stimulus environments, like long drives, night shifts, or quiet outdoor walks, the mind becomes more sensitive to unusual details. It does not mean people imagine things. Rather, they notice subtle movement and faint light in ways they might ignore during the day. This makes nighttime UFO encounters uniquely vivid and memorable. The absence of daytime noise and distraction gives the mind space to absorb the moment fully, imprinting the experience deeply. Even decades later, witnesses often recall their encounters with surprising clarity, describing not just what they saw, but how it felt: stillness, anticipation, and a sense that something extraordinary was unfolding just beyond ordinary reality. Yet the most compelling aspect of UFO encounters is not the strangeness, it is the consistency. Over time, descriptions from different eras and continents often align in unexpected ways. Objects that move without sound, lights that remain steady in wind, shapes that shift direction faster than known aircraft should. This doesn't prove anything definitive, but it adds weight to the idea that reports deserve to be examined thoughtfully rather than dismissed outright. Researchers analyzing these accounts argue that even when explanations exist, misidentified planets, experimental aircraft, atmospheric effects, they rarely fit every detail. Something remains unresolved, a piece missing from the puzzle. And in that silence, in that gap between explanation and uncertainty, the imagination rests. This atmosphere of gentle uncertainty is where our story begins. Tonight's journey is not about shock, fear, or sensational claims, but about exploring real recorded events with patience and calm curiosity. The goal is not to convince or unsettle, but to guide the mind into a peaceful place where mystery can exist without anxiety. When you listen to these encounters, you may find yourself imagining the quiet fields, the dark highways, the calm ocean decks where witnesses once stood, looking up into the same night sky that stretches above you now. The world softens at night, and in that softness, we can consider possibilities that daylight tends to push aside. As you settle into rest, Allow the deep history of these skyward mysteries to wash over you gently. The stories that follow will move slowly, steadily, like clouds drifting across a moonlit sky. They invite you to drift with them, to let curiosity and calm coexist. For as long as humans have been here, the night sky has held questions without answers. And tonight, you will explore a few of them, carried not by fear, but by quiet wonder. For as long as humans have recorded their experiences, unusual things in the sky have appeared in the margins of history, described in ancient languages, carved into stone, or whispered across generations. When we explore these early accounts, we step into a time when the world felt larger, darker, and more mysterious than it does today. People then lacked modern scientific explanations, yet they were not naive. They observed the sky carefully because their lives depended on it. Farmers watching seasons, sailors navigating oceans, travelers reading stars. When they described strange lights or objects overhead, they often did so with precision, even if framed through the beliefs of their era. These records do not feel like legends meant to entertain, but like attempts to document something experienced and not fully understood. In medieval Europe, chronicles often mention fiery shields or glowing wheels that appeared during battles or above villages at night. The language was symbolic, shaped by the imagery of the time, but certain details stand out: objects moving against the wind, lights hovering silently, shapes shifting or changing direction abruptly. Historians reading these accounts today notice patterns that resemble modern reports more than mythological stories. The chroniclers didn't describe gods descending or fantastical monsters. Instead, they wrote about controlled movement, coherent structure, and behavior inconsistent with natural phenomena. Though centuries have passed, the descriptions remain quietly compelling. Far from Europe, ancient Asian and Middle Eastern records also mention unusual aerial events. Chinese astronomers, who kept meticulous star charts, noted guest stars and wandering flames that did not follow known celestial paths. Unlike comets or meteors, these lights paused, changed direction, or lingered for long durations. In Japan, early scrolls mention glowing orbs drifting low above mountain forests, sometimes seen by multiple witnesses. In the Middle East, early scholars described moving stars or lamps of the sky, which behaved unlike anything understood in their sophisticated astronomical systems. Each culture interpreted these events differently. Some saw omens, others saw natural wonders, but nearly all described movement or behavior that defied their expectations. As we approach the 18th and 19th centuries, the language becomes more familiar. Sailors crossing the Atlantic wrote in their ship logs about strange lights hovering over the water, or metal-like shapes reflecting moonlight without making sound. Naval crews, trained to observe their environment carefully, documented these moments with matter-of-fact clarity. Many such reports came from calm nights when the sea mirrored the sky, creating a peaceful but eerie sense of endless space. In these conditions, even a small, unexplained light would stand out sharply. Some encounters occurred far from land, ruling out lanterns or lighthouses. Others involved multiple witnesses who all described the same thing, strengthening the credibility of the event. During the Industrial Revolution, as scientific thinking gained momentum, eyewitnesses tried to describe strange aerial objects using technical terms rather than spiritual ones. In the late 1800s, newspapers documented sightings of airships long before powered flight existed. These accounts came from farmers, policemen, traveling merchants, and entire crowds who saw large, structured shapes drifting silently overhead. Skeptics at the time argued that these were hoaxes or misidentified balloons, but most descriptions mentioned maneuvering abilities far beyond any technology of the era: rapid ascents, sudden directional changes, and bright, focused lights. Even today, historians remain puzzled by some of these detailed reports. One reason early accounts feel so intriguing is that the people who recorded them often had nothing to gain. Many were scholars, monks, navigators, or officials whose credibility depended on accurate observation. Yet they still wrote about moments that didn't fit into their worldview. Psychologists examining these narratives argue that while interpretation may be shaped by culture, the core experience, the perception of something unusual, often remains consistent. Nighttime, especially, plays a powerful role. Without modern lighting, the world of the past was far darker, making the sky even more dominant. People spent more time outdoors at night, and their eyes were naturally adjusted to low light, increasing sensitivity to movement or luminosity that might go unnoticed today. It is impossible to say with certainty what these early witnesses saw, but the repetition of similar descriptions across centuries and continents suggests that unusual aerial events are not modern inventions. They are woven into the fabric of human history, appearing in quiet fields, on open seas, and above ancient cities. Each account adds a small thread to a tapestry of mystery that has followed humanity through time. When we read these stories now, they feel like gentle reminders that the sky has always held questions we cannot fully answer. As you let these early echoes settle into your imagination, you may feel the same quiet curiosity that people felt long ago when they looked up at the night sky and saw something they couldn't explain, something moving, glowing, or simply lingering above them, waiting to be understood. The modern era of UFO encounters began not with science fiction or sensational stories, but with the quiet tension of war and the rapid evolution of technology. During the 1940s, as World War II unfolded across continents, pilots on both sides began reporting strange luminous objects pacing their aircraft at night. These sightings, later called Foo Fighters, puzzled military officials who initially suspected advanced enemy weaponry. Pilots described glowing spheres that followed their planes with impossible precision, sometimes darting away at sudden angles or vanishing instantly. What made these reports so striking was their consistency across nations. American, British, German, and Japanese crews all described almost identical phenomena. Even in the chaos of war, these trained observers were certain that what they saw did not behave like any known aircraft or atmospheric effect. As the war ended and aviation entered a new age of innovation, UFO reports didn't fade, they increased. In 1947, a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 disc-shaped objects speeding across the sky near Mount Rainier. His description of their motion, like saucers skipping over water, accidentally sparked the term flying saucer, which the media quickly adopted. But behind the sensational headlines, military intelligence quietly launched its first systematic investigations. The Air Force, recognizing the possible national security implications, created Project Sign, an early attempt to analyze sightings using scientific and military expertise. While the public was told that most reports were misidentifications, internal documents revealed that investigators were deeply concerned by objects demonstrating speed and maneuverability beyond anything in the U.S. arsenal. Throughout the 1950s, radar systems capable of detecting high-altitude aircraft became more sophisticated, and unexplained objects began appearing on screens, as well as in eyewitness testimony. Radar operators described targets traveling at extraordinary speeds, stopping abruptly, or changing direction in ways that contradicted known aerodynamics. In some cases, radar data aligned with visual sightings from pilots, creating what researchers consider some of the strongest evidence from the early modern era. The famous Washington, D.C. radar visual events of 1952, where objects were tracked over restricted airspace near the Capitol, caused such alarm that the Air Force held one of the largest press conferences in its history to calm public fear. While officials insisted there was nothing abnormal, privately they struggled to understand what had occurred. This era also saw the beginning of a cultural shift. Before these events, the general public rarely discussed the idea of unidentified aerial objects. But as reports grew more frequent and came from credible sources, pilots, police officers, radar operators, the topic became part of national conversation. Newspapers covered sightings with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, while radio shows speculated about extraterrestrial life and secret technologies. Governments around the world faced pressure to explain the strange objects that appeared in their skies. For many officials, acknowledging uncertainty felt dangerous. Admitting something unknown was entering national airspace, suggested vulnerability. Because of this pressure, Project Sign evolved into Project Grudge and eventually Project Blue Book, a long-running effort to investigate reports while also controlling public perception. Blue Book's official stance emphasized conventional explanations: planets, aircraft, balloons, illusions. But many of its case files contained incidents that could not be easily dismissed. Some involved electromagnetic interference on aircraft instruments, sudden power losses, or precise formations of luminous objects. Although Blue Book's public conclusion was that UFOs posed no threat, internal correspondence hinted that the true concern was not alien visitation, but unknown aerial technology, possibly foreign, possibly something else entirely. Psychologists studying the era note that the tensions of the Cold War contributed to both heightened observation and increased secrecy. People watched the skies more closely, expecting threats from enemy nations, while governments classified vast amounts of aerial research. At the same time, professional observers, especially pilots, remained adamant that many of the objects they saw did not resemble aircraft or known atmospheric phenomena. The combination of advanced radar, experienced witnesses, and official contradictions created a unique environment where mystery flourished. By the end of the 1950s, UFO encounters had transformed from occasional oddities into a documented pattern that demanded attention. The skies had become a stage for something unexplained, appearing in moments of quiet flight, tense military patrols, or routine nighttime operations. These early decades built the foundation for modern investigations, establishing the credibility of sightings and raising questions that still remain unanswered. As the world entered the 1960s, the sense that something beyond conventional understanding was sharing our airspace became harder to ignore, guiding researchers, witnesses, and governments into deeper inquiry, and setting the stage for the encounters that would follow. The night often deepens mystery, and some of the most compelling encounters with unexplained aerial phenomena occurred when ordinary darkness met extraordinary events. One of the earliest well-documented incidents occurred in 1948, known as the Gorman dogfight. A U.S. Air Force pilot George Gorman was flying over Fargo, North Dakota, when he reported being pursued by a small, fast-moving light. The object maneuvered with agility that defied known aircraft capabilities at the time, climbing and turning with remarkable speed. Radar tracking by ground stations confirmed the presence of a target, yet visual observation left Gorman awed and unsettled. Researchers analyzing the case noted that Gorman was an experienced pilot who had logged hundreds of hours in various aircraft. His description emphasized precise movement, silent propulsion, and behavior inconsistent with atmospheric phenomena, lending extraordinary credibility to his account. Even decades later, aviation historians consider this one of the first encounters that combined pilot testimony with instrumental confirmation. A few years later, in the summer of 1952, a series of sightings over Washington, D.C., captured public attention. Pilots, military personnel, and radar operators reported fast-moving lights over restricted airspace, some appearing to hover before accelerating abruptly. Nighttime conditions, including clear skies and minimal cloud cover, allowed observers to see the objects with remarkable clarity. Multiple radar stations recorded the same objects simultaneously, corroborating the visual sightings. The Air Force scrambled fighter jets to intercept the lights, but the objects moved in ways that baffled even the most experienced pilots. Analysts reviewing the records found no evidence of experimental aircraft or atmospheric anomalies that could account for the behavior. The incident drew media coverage, but official statements downplayed the events, framing them as misidentified conventional aircraft, while internal documents revealed genuine uncertainty about the nature of the objects. In 1965, a case known as the Exeter Incident involved a series of sightings in rural New Hampshire. A young woman reported seeing a large, luminous object hovering over a wooded area, while local police officers later confirmed strange lights in the same vicinity. One witness described the object as having a metallic surface reflecting the moonlight, with a shape that appeared to change subtly as it moved. The encounter extended over several hours, with multiple observers witnessing consistent behavior. Investigators noted that the timing coincided with no known meteorological or aircraft activity, increasing the credibility of the event. Psychologists studying the Exeter case later highlighted the importance of multiple independent witnesses who reported similar observations without prior discussion, suggesting the experience was not a product of shared imagination or suggestion. Another remarkable account comes from a small rural town, where a family observed a glowing craft descending into a nearby field. The night was calm, the sky clear, and the air filled with the faint hum of nocturnal wildlife. Witnesses described a smooth metallic surface, with lights that shifted from bright white to soft amber. As the craft moved, nearby electrical equipment reportedly flickered, an effect consistent with other well-documented UFO cases involving electromagnetic interference. The family's testimony was recorded by local authorities, and the incident attracted attention from regional researchers. What made this encounter notable was the combination of detailed visual observation, physical effects, and careful documentation by witnesses who had no prior interest in extraterrestrial phenomena, providing a level of authenticity often missing in sensationalized reports. Across all four encounters, certain patterns emerge. The objects often display movement inconsistent with known aerodynamics, appear silently against the night sky, and leave witnesses with a lasting impression of something intelligent or controlled. Nighttime settings amplify these experiences, as the mind, free from daytime distraction, notices subtle nuances, the shimmer of light across a metallic surface, the sudden acceleration of a glowing shape, the quiet hum felt more than heard. In each case, researchers emphasize that these were not fleeting impressions or misinterpretations of ordinary objects. Radar data, multiple witnesses, and careful documentation lend credibility, showing that something unexplained occurred in environments where observation conditions were favorable and reliable. The calmness of night contrasts sharply with the extraordinary nature of these encounters, making them particularly memorable. Pilots, law enforcement officers, and ordinary families alike describe a mixture of awe and quiet apprehension, a recognition that the universe contains phenomena beyond immediate understanding. While skeptics have proposed conventional explanations, from optical illusions to secret experimental aircraft, none fully account for the combination of maneuverability, visibility, and multiple witness corroboration seen in these cases. As we move forward in exploring more encounters, these four stories serve as a foundation, reminding us that the night sky has long been a canvas for both mystery and human observation, inviting us to look upward with curiosity and calm wonder. As reports of unexplained aerial phenomena multiplied during the mid-20th century, governments found themselves navigating a delicate balance between transparency and secrecy. In the United States, the creation of Project Blue Book, along with its predecessors Project Sign and Project Grudge, marked the beginning of an organized approach to investigating sightings. Officially, these programs sought to determine whether UFOs posed a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze reported events. Public statements, however, often emphasized dismissive explanations, misidentified aircraft, weather balloons, or atmospheric phenomena, while internal memos suggest that some investigators struggled to account for incidents that defied conventional reasoning. Declassified documents reveal a consistent tension. Authorities recognized the reality of unusual sightings, yet feared public alarm, the spread of misinformation, and the geopolitical implications of acknowledging unknown aerial technology. Internal communications within these programs show an atmosphere of genuine curiosity mixed with concern. Reports often included detailed observations from trained pilots and radar operators, yet the official narrative downplayed the unusual aspects. One memorandum, for instance, described a series of radar visual sightings over restricted airspace, noting that the objects exhibited acceleration, silent movement, and maneuverability beyond any known aircraft. Publicly, the events were summarized as misidentifications, but investigators themselves acknowledged anomalies. Scholars analyzing these documents highlight the dual purpose of the programs: to collect credible data and to manage public perception. This duality created a unique environment where mystery thrived, as the truth was neither fully concealed nor entirely disclosed. The psychological impact of governmental responses on witnesses is also significant. When trained observers, pilots, law enforcement officers, or military personnel report something extraordinary, official skepticism or dismissal can be both frustrating and disorienting. Many individuals recounted feeling a tension between the certainty of their own observation and the authority of institutional denial. Some pilots described keeping quiet about encounters for fear of ridicule, while others meticulously documented their experiences, ensuring that records could be reviewed by researchers later. The cumulative effect of this tension contributed to the cultural perception that UFOs were simultaneously real and taboo, worthy of study, but often shrouded in secrecy. At the same time, international governments faced similar dilemmas. Airspace violations, radar anomalies, and unexplained lights were reported in Europe, South America, and Asia. In some countries, military and scientific agencies conducted rigorous investigations, sometimes publishing findings. In others, cases were quietly recorded and classified. Researchers studying these patterns note that while cultural interpretation varied, the underlying phenomenon remained consistent. Trained observers witnessing aerial objects that did not conform to known technology or natural explanations. In essence, the UFO phenomenon revealed a shared human experience, observed across cultures and national borders, yet filtered through layers of bureaucratic caution and strategic discretion. Media coverage during this period added another layer of complexity. Newspapers and radio programs often sensationalized sightings, emphasizing fear or speculation, while also increasing public awareness. Some reports prompted government officials to issue clarifying statements, reinforcing the official narrative that UFOs posed no threat. Yet the tension between eyewitness credibility and public skepticism persisted. For example, radar visual cases, where objects were confirmed both visually and instrumentally, challenged official explanations, leaving researchers, journalists, and witnesses in a liminal space between certainty and mystery. The public's fascination grew not merely from the object themselves, but from the interplay of observation, documentation, and institutional ambiguity. Declassified documents also reveal instances where the government considered potential technological explanations beyond conventional aircraft, including experimental domestic or foreign technology. Some officials speculated about advanced Soviet aircraft during the Cold War, yet these explanations often failed to account for the object's sudden acceleration, hovering capability, and rapid directional changes. Historians emphasize that the inability to provide complete answers does not undermine the credibility of reports. Rather, it highlights the limits of contemporary knowledge and the cautious approach adopted by authorities. The combination of mystery, credible observation, and partial disclosure has made this period one of the richest sources for study, forming the backbone of modern UFO research. In reflecting on this era, it becomes clear that the government's role was multifaceted: to observe, investigate, and protect national interests, while also managing the delicate balance of public perception. The interplay between secrecy and disclosure, skepticism and acknowledgement, created an environment where witnesses and researchers alike were drawn into persistent inquiry. It is within this context that the UFO phenomenon became both a scientific and cultural puzzle, challenging our assumptions about the night sky, technology, and the boundaries of human understanding. Even as official reports often offered reassurance, the documented encounters hinted at something beyond ordinary explanation, an enduring mystery that continues to inspire careful, calm examination and quiet wonder. Night often reveals mysteries that remain hidden in the daylight, and some of the most compelling UFO encounters involve ordinary people who found themselves unexpectedly in the presence of something unexplainable. In one widely studied case, a small group of individuals traveling along a rural road witnessed a luminous craft hovering silently above the treeline. The night was clear, and the stars shone brightly, providing a contrast that made the craft's lights appear even more extraordinary. Witnesses described the object as metallic, almost reflective, with a shape that shifted subtly as it moved. It descended slowly, hovered for several minutes, and then accelerated away with a speed that defied conventional understanding. Local authorities were contacted, and their follow-up included interviews with multiple independent observers, lending credibility to the event. Researchers noted that these reports stood out because they came from ordinary people with no prior interest in extraterrestrial phenomena, reducing the likelihood of embellishment or fabrication. In another case, a family, on a quiet evening, noticed strange lights in the sky near their farm. At first, they assumed it was an aircraft, but as the object moved silently and made sudden changes in direction, it became clear that it did not behave like anything they had ever seen. Witnesses described a gentle hum in the air and a sense of stillness that enveloped the surrounding landscape. Interestingly, some electronic devices in the house flickered during the encounter, a phenomenon recorded in other cases involving potential electromagnetic interference. This physical effect, combined with detailed visual observation, has led many researchers to categorize this as one of the more credible civilian encounters of the mid-20th century. The family's meticulous documentation, including sketches and consistent testimony, allows modern investigators to cross-reference their account with other similar sightings. The Cash Landrum case, occurring in Texas during the late 1980s, provides another striking example. In this incident, 2 women and a young boy observed a diamond-shaped object emitting intense heat as it hovered over the highway. Witnesses described a frightening, yet awe-inspiring, scene where the object appeared almost alive, pulsating with energy. After the encounter, all 3 suffered from unusual physical symptoms, which some medical professionals attributed to radiation exposure, though others remained cautious in drawing conclusions. The combination of multiple eyewitnesses, physical effects, and follow-up medical reports has made this case a touchstone for civilian UFO research. It highlights the fact that ordinary people, without specialized training, can sometimes become the most reliable observers, providing detailed accounts under conditions that demand careful attention. In the Allagash abduction case, a group of friends on a camping trip in Maine reported seeing a bright light descending near their location. The calm night allowed them to observe the object for an extended period, and hypnotic regression interviews later provided additional details, though interpreted with caution due to the limitations of memory and suggestion. While the narrative includes elements that challenge the listener's understanding, the initial visual observations were independently consistent, corroborated by multiple witnesses who all described a large, bright craft hovering silently in the night sky. Psychologists studying the case emphasize that the reliability of the visual account is strengthened by the agreement among witnesses who had no prior knowledge of each other's perspectives. Another modern example comes from South America, where a small group of hikers observed an orb of light descending into a forested area. The night was exceptionally quiet, and the sudden appearance of the light created a palpable sense of stillness. Witnesses reported that the orb moved with intelligence, responding to their movements without producing sound. Observers took notes immediately afterward and shared their accounts with local authorities and researchers, who confirmed certain environmental anomalies, including unusual electromagnetic readings near the sighting location. This documentation makes the case noteworthy in studies of credible civilian encounters in modern times. What unites these stories is not just the visual phenomena, but the emotional and psychological consistency among witnesses. Ordinary people, farmers, families, hikers, and travelers describe similar reactions: awe, wonder, and a deep, sometimes indescribable feeling that they were witnessing something not of this world. Nighttime enhances these experiences, sharpening perception while softening the landscape, allowing subtle movements and unusual lights to appear more vivid. In many cases, multiple independent observers report the same phenomena, often with corroborating physical effects, suggesting that these experiences are more than personal imagination or misinterpretation. The combination of ordinary lives intersecting with extraordinary events creates a particularly resonant form of mystery, grounding the unexplained in everyday reality while inviting both curiosity and calm reflection. Throughout history, humans have sought to explain what they cannot fully understand, and UFO encounters are no exception. When trained pilots, families, and researchers report objects that defy conventional explanation, multiple theories emerge, each attempting to reconcile observation with knowledge. One prominent explanation is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the idea that some of these objects originate from intelligent life beyond Earth. Advocates of this theory point to consistent patterns across continents and decades: silent movement, extraordinary speed, sudden directional changes, and behavior that appears purposeful. While no direct physical evidence of extraterrestrial visitation has been confirmed, the hypothesis remains compelling because it accounts for features that terrestrial technology or natural phenomena struggle to explain. Alternative scientific explanations suggest that some sightings could be misinterpretations of atmospheric phenomena. Plasma formations, ball lightning, lenticular clouds, and other optical effects can appear as luminous, moving objects in the night sky. These occurrences are rare and often difficult to predict, which sometimes leads observers to perceive them as deliberate or intelligent. Researchers caution, however, that such natural phenomena rarely match the complex maneuvers or instrument-verified observations reported in numerous encounters. Radar confirmation, multiple independent witnesses, and consistent patterns challenge the idea that atmospheric anomalies alone can explain all sightings. Human psychology also plays a significant role in interpreting UFO reports. Studies of perception, memory, and suggestion reveal that unusual experiences can be shaped by expectation, prior knowledge, or cultural imagery. For example, the rise of science fiction literature and films influenced how people describe objects in the sky, often reflecting shapes or behaviors seen in popular media. However, the consistency of reports from trained observers, such as military pilots and radar operators, suggests that psychological factors alone cannot account for all cases. Researchers have noted that professional observers, familiar with aircraft and atmospheric conditions, frequently describe phenomena that do not correspond to conventional explanations, reinforcing the need for cautious scientific consideration. A third category of theory involves secret or experimental technology. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union were developing advanced aircraft and reconnaissance tools, some capable of impressive speeds and unconventional maneuvering. Some UFO sightings, particularly during the 1940s and 1950s, may have coincided with tests of these highly classified projects. However, many documented cases, especially those involving multiple independent witnesses and instrument verification, exhibit characteristics that even advanced military craft cannot replicate. Sudden stops, silent hovering, and instantaneous acceleration remain inconsistent with known aeronautical engineering, suggesting that some encounters extend beyond classified terrestrial technology. Cultural interpretations of UFO phenomena add another layer of complexity. Different societies interpret strange aerial events through the lens of their beliefs, myths, and folklore. In some traditions, celestial visitors are omens or spirits, while in modern Western culture, they are often framed as extraterrestrial spacecraft. Researchers have observed that this framing influences witness reports, media narratives, and even governmental responses. Yet, across cultures and eras, recurring descriptions, luminous objects, hovering crafts, sudden disappearance, indicate that certain experiences transcend local interpretation. This universality suggests that, regardless of explanation, the phenomenon interacts consistently with human perception and consciousness. Historical documentation also informs contemporary theorizing. Declassified military files, eyewitness accounts, and photographic or radar evidence provide a framework for assessing competing hypotheses. Scientists and historians emphasize the importance of cross-referencing multiple sources to build credible understanding. For instance, when radar data, multiple witnesses, and physical traces align, purely psychological or atmospheric explanations become less likely. Conversely, when evidence is limited to a single anecdote without corroboration, natural or human error becomes a more probable explanation. The careful weighing of evidence underscores the delicate balance between curiosity and skepticism that defines credible UFO research. Finally, the enduring mystery itself holds significance. Even when concrete explanations remain elusive, the phenomenon encourages scientific inquiry, philosophical reflection, and imaginative exploration. It challenges assumptions about the limits of technology, the nature of observation, and humanity's place in the universe. This section of the narrative reminds us that not all answers are immediate or necessary. Sometimes, the act of contemplation, tempered by careful analysis, enriches understanding and deepens our engagement with the unknown. By exploring these competing theories with calm curiosity, we honor both the credibility of witnesses and the timeless human fascination with what lies beyond our reach. As technology advanced and the world became more connected, UFO encounters continued to occur, now documented with greater precision and sometimes even captured on video or radar. One of the most widely known modern cases occurred in 2004 off the coast of California, involving the USS Nimitz carrier strike group. Pilots reported encountering a tic-tac-shaped object moving with incredible speed and agility, performing maneuvers that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Radar systems on the ship tracked the object at altitudes and velocities that no known aircraft could achieve. Witnesses described it as smooth, featureless, and white, with no visible means of propulsion, yet capable of rapid acceleration and abrupt stops. Military personnel later confirmed the authenticity of pilot videos, lending rare official validation to these extraordinary observations. The incident illustrates the modern convergence of eyewitness testimony, advanced instrumentation, and credible documentation. In 2015, the Department of Defense released several Navy videos, including the gimbal and go-fast recordings, showing unidentified aerial phenomena with unusual flight characteristics. The objects appeared to rotate or maneuver against the wind without any visible control surfaces, moving with sudden acceleration and unpredictable trajectories. Multiple Navy pilots confirmed the visual observations alongside radar tracking, reinforcing the reliability of the sightings. Analysts emphasize that the behavior could not be easily explained by drones, aircraft, or natural atmospheric effects. These cases captured public attention because, for the first time, government-released material provided high-resolution evidence, bridging anecdotal reports with tangible documentation. Another compelling case emerged from Europe, where a series of sightings involved luminous objects descending near populated areas at night. Witnesses described hovering orbs that responded to human presence, sometimes pausing for prolonged periods before abruptly vanishing. Investigations included interviews with multiple independent witnesses, environmental measurements, and cross-checking of radar logs. Researchers noted that these cases shared behavioral similarities with earlier encounters, such as sudden acceleration, silent movement, and consistent geometric shapes. The recurrence of such patterns across continents and decades strengthens the impression that the phenomenon, whatever its origin, exhibits persistent and reproducible characteristics. Civilian encounters in the digital age have also become more common, as smartphones and social media allow for immediate documentation and sharing. Ordinary people, from hikers to city dwellers, report seeing objects that move silently, change color or intensity, and disappear without a trace. Some of these cases have been corroborated by multiple observers in different locations, sometimes coinciding with military radar detection. Psychologists and researchers emphasize that while modern technology increases the possibility of hoaxes or misidentifications, it also provides opportunities for more accurate data collection than in previous decades. Videos, photos, and sensor data can be cross-referenced with witness statements, lending greater credibility to carefully documented cases. In South America, several well-documented sightings have involved objects that interact with the environment in subtle yet measurable ways. For example, hikers and rural residents have reported glowing orbs descending into fields or forests, accompanied by brief electromagnetic disturbances affecting electronic devices. Investigators measured anomalies in equipment ranging from radios to compasses, suggesting that certain objects emit a form of energy capable of influencing physical instruments. These encounters, much like earlier cases, involve multiple witnesses, physical effects, and consistent descriptions of shapes and behavior, creating compelling datasets for researchers attempting to understand patterns and origins. What unites these modern cases is the combination of reliability, documentation, and technological context. Unlike earlier decades, where reports often relied solely on witness testimony, today's incidents are frequently supported by radar, infrared sensors, and video evidence. This creates a multidimensional view of the phenomenon, allowing researchers to analyze speed, trajectory, shape, and environmental interactions with unprecedented precision. At the same time, the nighttime setting continues to enhance observation. In darkness, lights, shapes, and subtle motion stand out more clearly, making it easier for witnesses to perceive anomalies. Modern encounters also highlight the continued mystery of these objects. Despite technological advances, no recorded case has definitively identified the origin or mechanism behind the observed phenomena. Military officials, civilian investigators, and scientists emphasize that while certain sightings may eventually have conventional explanations, others remain unexplained even after thorough analysis. The combination of high-credibility witnesses, corroborating instruments, and consistent behavioral patterns ensures that these modern encounters are taken seriously within both scientific and defense communities. These contemporary reports remind us that the sky remains a place of wonder and uncertainty. While the methods for observation have become more precise, the experience of witnessing the unexplained remains profoundly human. Pilots, sailors, and ordinary observers alike describe awe, curiosity, and a quiet recognition that something extraordinary is unfolding above them. As we move forward in our exploration of UFO encounters, these modern examples bridge the gap between past and present, demonstrating that the mystery persists even in an era of advanced technology, and inviting us to consider the unknown with both calm reflection and informed attention. The mystery of unidentified aerial phenomena extends far beyond individual encounters. It has seeped into the collective consciousness, shaping culture, art, and imagination across the globe. Stories of strange lights and hovering crafts have influenced literature, cinema, and folklore, creating a shared language for the unknown. From early science fiction novels to blockbuster films, UFOs became symbols of curiosity, fear, and possibility. Yet this cultural fascination is not purely entertainment. It reflects a deeper human impulse to explore the unexplained. Nighttime stories, in particular, hold a unique power because they align with a natural state of receptivity. In darkness, the mind softens, sensory details are heightened, and imagination is encouraged, making encounters with the unknown feel more intimate and personal. In media coverage, UFO phenomena have often been framed with both sensationalism and caution. Newspapers and radio programs historically oscillated between reporting factual sightings and embellishing details for dramatic effect. Television documentaries and online content now balance storytelling with investigative rigor, offering viewers both credible information and immersive experience. Scholars note that this cultural portrayal shapes public perception, influencing how people interpret their own observations. The interplay of media, culture, and eyewitness testimony creates a feedback loop. Accounts inspire stories, which in turn inform expectations and descriptions of future sightings. This dynamic contributes to the enduring presence of UFOs in collective imagination. Folklore and mythology also intersect with modern UFO narratives. In many societies, mysterious lights in the sky were historically attributed to spirits, omens, or divine messengers. Contemporary UFO sightings sometimes echo these earlier interpretations, suggesting that humans perceive unfamiliar phenomena in ways consistent with their cultural framework. Anthropologists have documented recurring motifs: glowing objects appearing near fields or bodies of water, sudden appearances and disappearances, and interactions that seem intelligent or purposeful. While interpretations differ, the core experience, an encounter with something inexplicable, remains consistent across time and geography. This continuity highlights the human need to find meaning in uncertainty and to frame mystery within familiar narrative structures. UFOs also influence personal and social identity. For many witnesses, sharing a sighting is not just about recounting a visual experience. It is a way of connecting with larger questions about existence and the universe. Online forums, research groups, and social communities provide spaces where people exchange accounts, compare patterns, and explore theories. The sense of participating in something greater than oneself, whether it is a potential extraterrestrial visitation or a mysterious natural phenomenon, creates both community and reassurance. This collective engagement helps normalize curiosity about the unknown, allowing individuals to experience awe without fear. At the same time, culture shapes the way we interpret night skies. Artists, photographers, and writers have long drawn inspiration from luminous objects hovering in darkness, whether literal or imagined. Even music and visual arts incorporate the feeling of stillness and wonder associated with these encounters. The aesthetic appeal of a quiet, glowing craft moving across a moonlit sky resonates deeply, inviting reflection, meditation, and sometimes sleep. Nighttime imagery becomes a metaphor for exploration, curiosity, and the unknown, themes that align naturally with bedtime storytelling. By embedding UFO phenomena in culture, we gain both context and a lens through which to appreciate the mystery without anxiety. Documentaries and popular science programs emphasize both evidence and storytelling, showing that cultural fascination does not preclude investigation. Declassified military footage, photographic evidence, and multiple witness accounts provide the factual basis, while narrative framing ensures that these stories are accessible and emotionally resonant. The balance between information and imagination allows audiences to engage intellectually with the phenomenon while also experiencing the subtle wonder that comes from contemplating the unknown. This dual approach mirrors the way humans have historically related to the sky, as a source of knowledge, curiosity, and quiet reflection. Finally, the cultural impact of UFOs underscores a profound truth. The unknown is inherently compelling. Nighttime encounters, both real and imagined, teach us about attention, perception, and the boundaries of understanding. They remind us that mystery can coexist with calm, that curiosity need not provoke fear, and that humanity has long been drawn to what lies beyond immediate comprehension. The stories of the night sky, repeated across decades and continents, form a tapestry of shared wonder. As listeners absorb these accounts in a relaxed, reflective state, they connect not only with individual experiences, but with a collective human fascination that has persisted for centuries, a fascination that invites observation, contemplation, and the quiet joy of knowing that some questions remain beautifully unanswered. As the night deepens and the world outside quiets, there is a profound stillness that encourages contemplation. It is in this quiet that the mind begins to wander, tracing the paths of stories that stretch across time, geography, and human experience. The encounters we have explored, spanning centuries and continents, are more than mere sightings or events recorded in dusty files. They are part of a tapestry of human wonder, curiosity, and the subtle acknowledgement that the universe holds mysteries beyond our current comprehension. Tonight, as you allow yourself to sink deeper into relaxation, it is not fear that we embrace, but awe, the gentle, expansive kind that comes from recognizing the limits of what we know and the endless possibilities of what we might yet discover. Consider for a moment the earliest observers: sailors navigating oceans by starlight, farmers tending fields beneath the moon, or ancient priests scanning the skies for signs. These individuals, though distant from us in time and culture, experience something remarkably similar to what modern witnesses report. They saw lights that moved in ways that defied understanding, shapes that seemed deliberate, and phenomena that could not be reduced to natural explanation. They may have framed these occurrences through the lens of their beliefs, omens, spirits, or celestial messages, but at the core, they were observing, documenting, and acknowledging something extraordinary. There is a quiet comfort in knowing that across centuries, humans have shared this experience, standing under the night sky, sensing the presence of something beyond ordinary perception, and recording it with care and attention. As the centuries progressed, the advent of technology brought new dimensions to these observations. During the Second World War, pilots reported luminous objects moving alongside their aircraft, performing maneuvers that no known technology could replicate. These Foo Fighters, as they were later called, were mysterious and fleeting, yet they were recorded by trained observers under conditions that demanded accuracy and attention. Following the war, sightings increased, moving from anecdotal stories to reports that included radar data, photographs, and extensive documentation. Military and civilian witnesses alike described objects hovering silently, accelerating with impossible speed, and maneuvering in ways that challenged the limits of physics as understood at the time. Even when government authorities attempted to explain away these phenomena, internal documents reveal a genuine struggle to account for them. The mystery persisted not because of exaggeration or illusion, but because the observations themselves were often consistent, precise, and resistant to conventional interpretation. In reflecting on these encounters, it becomes clear that the human experience of the unknown is multifaceted. There is the intellectual curiosity that drives analysis, reviewing radar data, cross-referencing witness accounts, studying photographs and videos, and exploring the possibilities of physics, engineering, and atmospheric science. There is also the emotional and psychological dimension, the awe, the sense of smallness in the face of the vast unknown, the quiet thrill of seeing something remarkable in a world that can often feel predictable. Both aspects coexist, gently, quietly, as the mind absorbs the implications of what has been observed. Nighttime enhances this duality. The darkness softens perception, heightens attention to subtle motion and light, and creates a liminal space where wonder and reason can dwell together without conflict. The modern era adds yet another layer to this experience. With digital technology, encounters are recorded in ways previously impossible. Video footage from military pilots, infrared cameras, and radar instruments provide a new form of documentation that is simultaneously vivid and mysterious. These recordings, while providing concrete evidence of aerial anomalies, often leave more questions than answers. Observers note behaviors that defy known propulsion methods, shapes that appear smooth and controlled, and sudden movements that challenge conventional aerodynamics. Even when analyzed meticulously, these modern encounters retain an element of uncertainty, an openness that invites speculation, scientific inquiry, and imaginative reflection. The uncertainty itself is not unsettling. Rather, it creates space for the mind to wander, to consider possibilities beyond immediate comprehension, and to appreciate the vastness of the universe in which these events occur. Yet beyond technology and documentation, the most compelling thread running through these encounters is human experience. Families on quiet nights, hikers in remote forests, pilots in the darkness of high altitude, all report remarkably similar sensations: a profound stillness, a heightened awareness of the environment, and a subtle recognition of something intelligent or deliberate in the movement of the observed object. The phenomenon does not always announce itself with noise or flash. Often, it is the gentle glimmer, the measured shift in position, or the unexpected acceleration that captures attention. There is an intimacy to these encounters, a sense that the observer is sharing a moment with the unknown that is both personal and universal. This intimacy is perhaps why such experiences linger in memory for decades, shaping how individuals think about the world and their place within it. Physical and environmental effects sometimes accompany these encounters, adding another layer of intrigue. Flickering lights, electromagnetic interference with instruments, or even subtle effects on nearby animals and equipment have been reported repeatedly. While these effects are not consistent in every case, when they do occur, they provide tangible evidence that the phenomenon is not purely perceptual or psychological. For researchers, these anomalies are both a challenge and an invitation. They cannot be dismissed easily, yet they also resist simple explanation. The combination of human observation, instrumentation, and environmental effects creates a complex picture that is at once compelling and confounding, inviting careful study without demanding immediate conclusions. In contemplating these mysteries, it is valuable to recognize that not all questions require immediate answers. Part of the profound experience of UFO encounters is their resistance to simple categorization. Some objects may have terrestrial explanations, while others remain unresolved. Some sightings may eventually be understood through advances in technology, atmospheric science, or physics, while others may continue to elude interpretation. The important element is not certainty, but curiosity, the ability to observe, reflect, and remain open to possibilities beyond current understanding. There is a quiet beauty in this openness, a peaceful acknowledgement that the universe contains layers of complexity that humans are only beginning to explore. The cultural impact of UFO phenomena reinforces this perspective. Stories of lights in the night sky, hovering crafts, and mysterious aerial objects have inspired literature, film, art, and music. They tap into archetypal human experiences, wonder, exploration, and the search for meaning in the unknown. Nighttime stories, in particular, hold a gentle power. They are told in quiet voices, often in moments of rest or reflection, and they allow listeners to inhabit the liminal space between sleep and wakefulness, imagination and observation. This cultural resonance reminds us that mystery can be comforting. It can stimulate thought, creativity, and contemplation without producing fear. It allows the mind to wander while the body relaxes, creating a space for calm engagement with the unknown. As we reflect on all 12 encounters explored in this journey, from early historical accounts to modern radar-confirmed sightings, it becomes evident that a single theme unites them. The night sky remains a frontier of wonder. Ancient observers, modern pilots, families, and hikers alike have experienced something remarkable, something that challenges conventional understanding yet is documented with care and credibility. The phenomenon transcends time, geography, and culture, reminding us that humanity's fascination with the skies is enduring and deeply rooted. Each story contributes to a larger tapestry, connecting personal experience with historical continuity and collective curiosity. Tonight, as you allow your mind to drift gently into rest, it is comforting to remember that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to appreciate. The universe is vast, layered, and full of subtle wonders, many of which remain beyond our current understanding. By observing, reflecting, and remaining open, we participate in a tradition that stretches across centuries. Watching the night sky with curiosity, acknowledging moments that do not fit neatly into explanation, and embracing the quiet mystery that surrounds us. In this space, awe and relaxation coexist, guiding the mind into a state of gentle contemplation and calm. The encounters you have witnessed, quietly and calmly, are not just stories, they are invitations. They invite you to consider the vastness of space, the limits of current knowledge, and the intricate relationship between observation and imagination. They remind us that mystery is a fundamental part of human experience, that it can coexist with reason, and that it can be a source of profound serenity. Even in sleep, these stories linger, offering a gentle sense of curiosity, connection, and wonder. As your breath slows and your thoughts soften, imagine the night sky stretching above, filled with light, shadow, and subtle movement. Somewhere in that quiet expanse, perhaps, something extraordinary is gliding silently, leaving traces only for those who look with attention and open minds. And so, as the world sleeps around you, take comfort in the unknown. The universe is full of questions, some answered, many unanswered, but all offering the gift of curiosity and reflection. Tonight, you have traveled across centuries, across skies and continents, witnessing the extraordinary alongside those who have shared it before. You have observed patterns, marveled at movements that defy expectation, and reflected on the delicate interplay of human perception and the unknown. As sleep carries you further, let the quiet awe of these experiences settle in, softening the mind, expanding the imagination, and allowing the night itself to become a companion in your journey toward rest, reflection, and gentle wonder. In the stillness that follows, know that you are connected to every observer who has ever looked upward and seen something unexplainable. Their curiosity, their courage, and their careful attention echo across time, reminding you that the unknown is not something to conquer, but something to experience, softly, calmly, and with an open heart. Tonight, you rest under the same sky, aware that the mysteries of the universe are not threats, but invitations. Invitations to dream, to wonder, and to embrace the quiet magic that surrounds us. In this serene state, the line between observation and imagination blurs, leaving only calm, gentle curiosity, and the subtle comfort of knowing that the night sky is still full of secrets waiting patiently, silently, for anyone willing to notice.